Buenas tardes, good afternoon, bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa mujer? Welcome to ¿Qué pasa mujer? Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde. ¿Qué pasa mujer? Nació hace 3 años, justamente en septiembre. Entonces estamos muy contentos de poder compartir con ustedes de todo. Nosotros hablamos de todo aquí. So we're super excited because we have been coming to you for about 3 years now, actually in September. So right around this month, 3 years ago is when we started talking about everything and anything we want to hear on ¿Qué pasa mujer? I don't know if you guys know, but tomorrow is the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month. So, of course, we're going to talk about that on the show today a little bit. We're going to go ahead and bring Maddie on, our co-host, all the way from Virginia. Hola, Maddie, ¿cómo estás?
Buenas tardes, ¿qué pasa, mujer? Doing good, Viviana. How are you?
Sí, estoy muy bien, muy contenta, porque mañana es la herencia. Empezamos a celebrar oficialmente la herencia hispana aquí en los Estados Unidos. Claro que nosotras lo celebramos todos los días, no importa.
Así es.
Dinos un poquito qué tú vas a hacer este mes, empezando mañana.
Usualmente me gusta en mi Facebook, en mi cuenta en línea, me gusta siempre highlight o sobresaltar una persona reconocida de origen hispano. Tal vez no necesariamente una persona que sea muy familiar. Las personas del entretenimiento usualmente son bien conocidas, trato de buscar personas tal vez en los negocios.
Yo estoy en esa lista.
Vamos a ver, tal vez me tire para personas locales ahora.
Tú también tienes que estar en la lista.
Yeah. También. So I just, try to highlight people of Hispanic origin that, might not be in a field that we necessarily know. Like I share astronauts and, gymnasts and things like that, that people might not know are Hispanic origin. But yeah, so that's going to be a big one for me. Maybe try to highlight Hispanic people of Hispanic origin in fields that we might not necessarily know. And then of course I do my my poems of that talk about being Hispanic and our origins and our struggle and our and our fight. So those are the two things that I try to do. And then of course try to represent whenever I can. So at work every Friday we wear t-shirts and jeans, and I try to make sure that I wear a Hispanic celebration t-shirt for the Hispanic Heritage Month.
Perfect. Yeah. I'll be doing the same thing, not the t-shirt, but I'm always wearing my Colombian, not today, but I usually wear my Colombian earrings, and they're earrings that were made by indigenous people. So you kind of just buy them in the streets, and then so every time that I go, I always come back with a new collection. So yes, I'm going to be doing that as well, Maddie, because I think it's important to, like you always say, educate ourselves and help other people get educated as well. So I think it's extremely important that we do that as Latinos, and also like as we're teaching others, we're learning ourselves, because there might be some new stuff that we learn and we're like, oh my God, I didn't know that. So do not be a hoarder of good information. So we're super excited because today we have a guest, Hady de la Cruz, and she's just full of energy, and we don't have a script as always. So this is raw and transparent and everything. So we're just going to go ahead and get started so we can all get to know Hady. So Mark, you could go ahead and bring her on so we can start digging in. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Estoy muy bien y contenta por estar aquí. Gracias por la invitación.
Sí, me encanta que estás con nosotros. Vamos a hablar un poquito en español y un poquito en inglés, depende de la
Okay.
energía donde quieres que lleve.
Okay.
Eso no te preocupes, tranquila. Primero, bueno, Hady de la Cruz, y
Ujú.
vemos en el título que es The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants. Dime qué es eso.
Sí,
Well,
eso
tell
es
me
un
what is that?
podcast.
You
Sí,
say it in
es.
Spanish or English. But tell me the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants. What does that mean?
Y eso es un podcast que yo empecé hace 3 años también, en abril, so, en abril 2022 empezó The American Dream and the Eyes of Immigrants, y es un programa de yo entrevistando inmigrantes, no solamente de Latinoamérica, sino inmigrantes de toda la parte del mundo, y hablamos sobre de su historia de venir a los Estados Unidos. So, yo le pregunto sobre su vida, cómo fue su vida para atrás en su país, dependiendo también de qué edad vinieron, porque mucha gente viene cuando son niños. Y también hablamos sobre de la razón por qué vinieron, si fueron sus padres que lo trajeron o si fueron ellos mismos que hicieron esa decisión. Y también hablamos de cuando llegaron a los Estados Unidos, cuáles fueron su choque culturalmente, porque sabemos que la cultura aquí americana es bien diferente de las otras culturas en el mundo. Y también cómo se adoptaron a vivir aquí en los Estados Unidos, porque es un proceso para ajustarse a esta vida de aquí americana, la comida, todo es un ajuste y aprender cómo se funciona el sistema de aquí. So, hablamos
Ujú.
de eso y también hablamos si tuvieron la oportunidad de visitar a su país y cuántos años duró para poder volver para atrás, porque muchas veces no pueden volver dependiendo de la razón en por qué vinieron, y muchas veces le duran como 10 años mínimo para poder volver, si pueden volver, ¿verdad? Entonces, hablamos de esa experiencia, cómo fue visitar a tu país después de mudarte, después de tener tantos años sin ver a tu familia y esos. Y finalmente hablamos de los negocios. Son muchos inmigrantes empiezan sus propios negocios aquí en los Estados Unidos, y hablamos del por qué empezaron el negocio, cuál es el negocio, y eso es también para, tú sabes, para si hay clientes que están escuchando, que pueden utilizar los servicios que ellos ofrecen y eso. De eso se trata el programa. Hablo, como le dije, inmigrantes y también niños como yo que son de inmigrantes, y hablamos también de cómo ellos crecieron con sus padres, tratando de ayudarlo, translating, tú sabes, ayudando con los papeles y todo eso, porque me he dado cuenta que los niños de inmigrantes tienen que ayudar, tú sabes, sus padres, más que los niños que, tú sabes, tuvieron padres que nacieron aquí. So, de eso se trata el programa.
Muy interesante. ¿De qué país es tu familia?
Mi familia son de la República Dominicana. Yes, fellow Dominican. Y yo nací en Nueva York, pero me crié en Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Muy interesante. ¿Dónde tú encuentras, cuando empezaste, dónde encontraste esta gente para poder decir su historia?
So, empecé con familia y amistades. So, como mi familia son inmigrantes, yo digo que yo me crié con inmigrantes. So, mientras eran amigos o familia, y siempre estaba escuchando esas historias de cómo era su vivir para atrás en su país y eso. Entonces, cuando empecé el programa, empecé preguntándole a amistades y familiares si se sentían cómodos, tú sabes, decir esa historia, porque muchas veces es traumático la razón por que ellos vinieron y el venir para otro país. So, empecé con familiares y invitados, y después lo puse en grupos de Facebook, específicamente de podcasters, y para encontrar invitados. Y desde ahí ha sido solamente extraños, en verdad. Hay mucha gente, o si no eran ellos mismos, ellos me referían a otra persona que ellos sabían que era inmigrante, por ejemplo. Y ahora yo voy muchas veces a networking events o voy a conferences, voy a hablar de qué se trata mi programa, y siempre hay un migrante, y le digo de mi programa, y siempre están interesados de hablar de sus historias de inmigración, porque haciendo este programa ya por 3 años me he dado cuenta que esa historia de inmigración, de emigrar, no se habla mucho. Mucha gente no le preguntan, no tienen esa curiosidad de cómo fue, y eso, I was like, that's interesting, like, como que nadie quiso saber, you know, like about your upbringing and things like that. So, me da mucho placer poder tener ese espacio para latinos, para decir su historia, muchas veces por primera vez. So yeah.
And you know why? I think it's because a lot of, not me, because I didn't necessarily struggle to get here, but my grandmother did, right?
Mhm.
And so they don't want to talk about those
Oh
stories.
yeah, it's
It's
hard.
embarrassing. It brings back hurtful emotions.
Yeah.
So I know that that's one reason. I would say today a lot of fear, right? A lot of
Oh,
fear to
sí.
tell your story. So I think it's amazing that you have been able to find so many stories for your podcast,
Yes.
because there is a lot of fear, a lot of hurt behind, coming here to this country. And, my grandmother's 89. She'll be 90 in November. And I tell
Wow.
her, I have recordings of her. We've traveled to like Washington, D.C. So we've been in the car for like 3 hours going and 3 hours coming back. And she was telling me stories about when she was a little girl, when she came to this country, and I was recording her. She would kill me if I were to post any of that information.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she's watching the show right now, but but I have not released the stories, but I tell her all the time, I need to hear the stories because
Mhm.
it empowers me, and then I
Mhm.
can empower the rest of my family members,
Sí.
so that
Mhm.
I know that I got here through an airplane, right? But I was only able to do that because of the struggles that my
Mhm.
grandmother went through. And so
Facts.
I think it's very valuable information for my family, and also for people outside, even that are not Latinos, because they can value what I've been through. Because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, we all have struggles, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Whether it's a immigration struggle, or you grew up with just some type of abuse as you were growing up. So there's always something that we have to deal with as
Mhm.
adults. And
Uh-huh.
so I just think it's amazing that you have been able to have so much content. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Heidi, I know that we started talking about your podcast, but can you tell us a little bit? Because, again, the topic, again, we all can relate to this, but can you tell us a little bit about your personal story, and why
Yeah.
is the podcast so important? Why this topic, and
Yeah.
why was it so important to you, since you already shared with us that you were born in the United States? Why was
Yes,
it so
yes.
important?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it is something that is very close to my heart because I love stories, and everything that I do is driven by my faith. And so, the Bible talks a lot about the heart that God has for the immigrants, the poor, the marginalized, the orphans, and things like that. And it's all throughout the Bible. And so it's just something that is very close to my heart. And I say that God put it in my heart to start a podcast in 2019. That's when I got the urge, because I've always been a fan of podcasts, always listening to podcasts. But I realized that the podcasts that I was listening to were always story based. So it's either an interview or an author talking about their book and things like that. And even like when I am reading a book, it's a memoir, or I love watching documentaries. I just love people's stories and just learning about them. And then also, as a person of faith, seeing where God was or is in their story. And so
Mhm.
finally in 2022, I I was on maternity leave actually. My son was 3 months old, so I was towards the end of maternity leave, and I was like, man, this urge to start a podcast is still in my heart. Like, like I have to act upon this now. So I started searching on launching a podcast, and then I've got all the information, like the tech and all of that down. And then I was like, okay, what is this podcast going to be about? And I actually came across an article, and it was an immigrant from Kenya, and she was talking about each cultural shock that she experienced here in the United States and how that diminished her confidence in herself. Like, she was questioning her intelligence and just questioning her worth. And I was like, oh my God, this is so deep. And it just got me thinking, like, when you hear about immigration, you don't hear about stories. It's always like, politics or, things like that, or in a negative light. And I'm just like, if I'm going to do a podcast, like, I want to highlight, right? I want to encourage and have the compassion and empathy. So after reading that article, I went to my husband, who's also an immigrant. He came at the age of 9. And so I asked him about his story. Like, hey, how was it for you coming from the DR to New York, right? From a Caribbean island to the concrete jungle. Like, tell me about that. Like, do you remember how you felt? He was like, yeah, very vividly as a 9-year-old. So as he's telling me his story about how mesmerized he was with New York, he was like, why are there so many cars, and where are the trees, and all this other stuff that he was telling me? I was like, okay, that's what I want my podcast to be about. I'm just going to talk to immigrants about their journey coming to the United States, and that's really how it was born. But also, just again, my heart for people, my heart for storytelling, and just realizing that this space was needed about immigration. And yes, when it started back in 2022, we were in a different place than we are right now in our country, and so funny, not funny enough, but like you were mentioning about me having a lot of content, I've gotten to the point twice already where I'm like a year in ahead for my content. And so I tell people like, okay, we're recording today, but your episode is not going to be out for a few months, right? And I remember one of my guests reaching out to me when the episode was going to be out. She was like, so how much did I talk about being undocumented? And so I was like, okay, when I edit, I'll let you know. And it was like quite a bit of the episode. And then she was like, I am sorry to do this, but can you take that stuff out? Just again, based out of fear. And I was like, 100%. Like, I want this to represent you how you want it to be. And so I, removed a lot of the stuff of her mentioning when she was undocumented. Luckily, she's, she has her papers and everything now. But again, that's just me honoring my guest's story and honoring what they want out there and not pushing any narrative, not doing any of that. It's just honoring the story, whatever it is. And so, yeah, so now it has been a little bit tricky, but there has been a lot of people feeling empowered now to share their story with the podcast. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's awesome. I love that. What is what is something that you, because I know you say, with your faith and, you just felt that urge to start the podcast. What have you felt through the process of talking to people, right? Because sometimes we see people cry, right?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, man, that those tears are like growth, right? So tell me like the emotional side to podcasting and to
Yeah.
listening to these stories.
So I'm a very empathetic person, and like I feel when things are happening deeply. And yeah, se ha llorado mucho en ese programa, like a lot. And I'm very, very careful with giving my guests space and time to like process literally what they're processing in real time with me. And I've also heard really hard stories. Like I've heard of people, with like sexual trauma or abuse and things like that. So just, having that heart of compassion and just sitting there with them and just holding that space for them. And one thing that my guests have always or have mentioned a lot is like that they feel comfortable opening up with me. Like I don't know if it's my energy but they just feel that comfort to be able to open up. So like when they hear the episode back, like gotten messages like, wow, like I really shared a lot. Like, I didn't even mean to like share that much. But yeah, through listening to these stories again, I'm always listening for God. I'm always learning about different cultures, about history, about just how just learning so much through these stories. And I'm very, very grateful to do this. Like every single time I finish an interview, I finish with such a high, and I'm just like running to my husband. I was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. They said this and that. I can't wait till the episode. Like that's literally the energy that I have every single time I finish an interview, because again, I'm just such a person for people. I'm such a person for people's stories. And I feel like that's where we really learn and how change happens. It's like, okay, if this happened, it's like, okay, why did this happen? What caused that to happen? What was, the cause and effect, right? And yeah, just providing a safe space for people to share.
That's awesome. Let me ask you, I know, we talk about the American dream, and like you said, everybody's story is different. And the dream can be different for everybody, depending on where you come from, what your situation was back at home, like you're saying. How has that changed or impacted your perspective about your American dream? And how is your dream different from your immigrant family or like your immediate circle that you started talking about this American dream about? How has that impacted and has that changed your view of your American dream?
Yeah, so the American dream is very personal for everyone. I think like back when it was talked about the American dream, it was talked about like owning a house, the two kids, the good job, the car, and the dog, right? But that
And
has
the white picket fence.
and the white picket fence. Yes, exactly. But that has definitely changed. And so that's why I named the podcast that The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants, because the United States has always been marketed that way, right? Like El Sueño Americano in Spanish and in the American Dream. So it's like a lot of immigrants leave their home country searching for that American dream, searching for opportunities that this country provides that maybe their home country doesn't provide. And so that's why that's the last question that I ask, is like, what does the American dream mean to you? Because again, it's very personal, very depending on what their goals, what their definition of success is. But one word that comes up over and over and over again is opportunity. It's the opportunity to go for your dream, whatever that may be, whether it is starting a business or whether it is moving up the corporate ladder, or be able to just work and provide for your family back home. You know, there's a lot of people, especially from Mexico, that literally would just come to the United States to work and then just be able to provide back for their family. And that's literally what their goal was. And so when I started this show, I wasn't even thinking about like my own American dream. But as I was like listening to like all these stories and I was like, I am living my American dream. Like listening to these stories and providing that space for them, like that is my American dream and I am already living it. You know, I'm married, I have 2 kids, I do have the house, and I actually do have a white fence.
Funny enough, and the white picket fence too, and the dog. Yeah, the dog.
We just got a dog this summer. So I am literally living the American dream. But then I realized that like, no, it's just like the connection that I'm making with people, just the opportunities that the podcast has given me. All of that is my American dream. So I'm already living it. And so I'm just always forever grateful for that and thankful that we actually do have the medium to do this, right? We have the opportunity right now to do the show right now, just having this conversation here, that unfortunately in other countries, they don't have that freedom or that opportunity. So that when I first started the show, I really wasn't thinking about my American dream. But then as I got, talking to people and just hearing so many different dreams, I'm like, yeah, I'm living mine. Actually, I really am.
Wow, that's awesome. I love what you said about providing a safe space, and I think that is like essential. And not because of the times that we're living in now, but just in general, you always want to go to a safe place. And so I think that that's nice that you do that. And also the opportunity piece that you mentioned. Sometimes we tend to focus on the problem and not the solution, or, how they say the cup is half empty or half full. Like, how do you see it? But I think it's important to, to have some of that self-reflection, right? Like you were saying, like you are living the American dream, right? And I think it's amazing, and I think it's because you're doing things with purpose, right? And you're following your creator, and the things that you want to do in that capacity. And so I think it's kind of like your steps have been ordered and you're following them, you're being obedient, right? And then you're able to see the fruit of your work. And it really, I'm sure you've had some difficult moments, challenging moments. I'm like, oh my God, I only have 2 people following me, or whatever those challenges were, right? So tell us a little bit about that. What do you do when you see a challenge? What do you do?
100%. There's definitely been challenges. I've had like tech challenges and things like that, but then also just like, am I making an impact kind of challenge? Like I get those thoughts of like questioning myself, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Why am I doing this? The sense of feeling overwhelming, because producing a podcast is a lot of work. And when I started the first 2 years, I was doing it all myself, finding the guest and then recording and then marketing and editing and all of that. I was doing it all myself. Now I have a help from a VA. She's helping me with the editing, but it's a lot of work to do a podcast. And so, yes, there was a lot of times where I'm like, okay, why am I doing all this work? Like, is this really all worth it? But then I get those messages, or I get the comments, or I get, those thank yous. And I'm just like, this is why I'm doing it. Like God always sends me a reminder of why I'm doing this when I'm feeling those moments of doubts. And I'm gonna be 100% transparent. Even after like the elections, like there was just this realm of like not like defeat. I felt like very defeated, and it was like, what's the point of all of this right now? But then I was living I was in that for a few days and talking to a few friends, and they encouraged me. They were like, no, we need these stories now more than ever. Your mission is even more important now, because I say that the mission of the podcast is to change the narrative of immigration to a more compassionate and empathetic approach. And so that really helped me in those moments of like feeling defeated and challenging. And also like having my husband encourage me too, because I honestly would not be able to do this without his support. Because like I said, we have two kids, and it's like when I'm doing here, when I'm recording, when I'm doing events or things like that, like he's holding it down at home with the kids and the dog now. And so I would not be able to do this without him. And I go to him, when I am feeling defeated, and he'll remind me. He's like, okay, go pray. And second of all, like, what you're doing is important. Like, this is important. So he also believes in the mission, and he reminds me and brings me back down to my why. So yeah, but there is definitely challenges, because there is a real enemy out there that really wants to like bring us down and not live in our purpose. But it's good to have a support system, and it's good to go back to your why. And it's like, okay, why am I doing this? And it's honestly 100% is definitely not for money, because it takes a long time to make money from podcasting for those who are not podcasters. But it's definitely for the purpose, for sharing the stories, for providing that safe space, and just how much these stories have enriched me too. I also interview authors, immigrant authors. And so just like reading their memoirs and then like talking to them, and I'm just like, do you guys understand how amazing it is to publish a book that is not in your native language? Like, that is crazy. And so I'm just so proud of them for putting their words out there, for putting their work out there, and just in awe of, like, depending on what country they come from, like how they grew up, and then how like their life changed once coming to the United States.
That's awesome. We do share the same sentiment when it comes to Que Pasa Mujer. We really, Mark and Pod TV has really given us like free range to talk about whatever topics we want to. So every show, we always mention that Latinos contribute $3.7 trillion to the economy. And so we're like, and the number keeps going up, right? And so we feel proud because the three of us contribute to that number, right? Yeah. And when I first heard the statistic, I was like, oh my God, I got to tell everybody, and I started to say it in places where there were non-Latinos, right? Mm-hmm. But then I said, like how I felt so empowered when I heard that number. I decided to then share it with my people as well. So now in every space that I have the ability to, like I mentioned that number, I think, to hear $3.7 trillion is a magnificent number. So I encourage you to share that number as you speak to the people you speak to.
Yes. And I actually heard some other facts about Latina podcasters, which like lit a fire in me. So I am a podcast launch coach for those who want to start their podcast. And so I was doing, market research, and I learned that there's not even enough data to collect on Latina podcast hosts. But over 72% of the Latino population are listening to podcasts, and over half of that are Latinas. So it's like we're listening to podcasts, but we're not hosting enough. And it's just like, why not? So now I'm just like, okay, where am my Latinas at? Like, we need to start a podcast. Like, we need to be in this space representing, because our listeners are listening. Like, we're out here listening to podcasts, but we're not hosting enough. So like, that's another fact that I was just like, okay, like we need more Latinas in podcasting too.
We're going to talk about that next. But before that, I just want to say hello to Lily. She said, everything we're talking about is importante. Aww. And then Tangi said, yes, Hady, thank you for your service and obedience. Oh. So Tangi is someone that's she's one of our faithful watchers. So yes, we really do appreciate the work that you do. And at some point, we're going to have a banner right below us, but we'll give people your information to see how they can find you. But that is one of the questions that we had. And I think this section, maybe we could do it in Spanish a little bit too,
Okay.
because sometimes we'll switch with Spanish and English. But I think sometimes our purpose is really to empower, right? And so I think the information that you're about to give us is extremely empowering. And so I kind of want to say it in English and Spanish. How what is a podcast,
Uh-huh.
and how do you start one, and how do they contact you so you can help them?
Okay. So, un podcast es como un programa de radio, pero uno lo escucha cuando quiera, ¿verdad? El radio es live, so vamos a decir, hay este programa de 3 a 4 live, ¿verdad? Pero un podcast tú lo puedes escuchar en cualquier hora. So, vamos a decir como un programa de radio por el internet, es un podcast. ¿Y cómo se empieza uno? Bueno, uno tiene que decidir en verdad qué es lo que quiere hablar, qué tópicos van a decir, y el por qué quieren empezar el podcast. Si lo quieres hacer como un negocio, si lo quieres hacer como un hobby, y después uno tiene que decidir en qué lo va, like hosting. So hay diferentes servicios para
¿Qué
poder,
plataforma usar?
plataformas, ajá, que van a usar. Esto es diferente de donde la gente lo va a escuchar. Esto es a donde uno sube el episodio, uno sube las notas del capítulo y eso. Y después empezar, lo bueno del podcast es que es tuyo, no es como las redes sociales, ¿verdad? Que Instagram, Facebook y Threads es abajo de Meta, ¿verdad? Meta es la compañía. El podcast es tuyo, so usted decide cuánto episodio quiere subir, cuándo lo quiere subir, qué tópicos quieres decir, y es completamente independiente de las redes sociales. A mí me gusta también decir como que es un online blog, como un, like a, yeah, like a radio blog. And yeah, eso es lo que me gusta del podcast, que uno tiene el control completamente de lo que uno quiere decir y quiere hacer con el programa. Yo ayudo a las personas que quieren empezar el podcast con mi coaching program, so un programa de 6 semanas. Y con el cliente yo me siento, hablamos de, ok, cuál es el podcast que quiere hacer, si quiere hacer los episodios solo o si quieren hacer entrevistas o si quieren hacer una mezcla de las dos, cuántas veces quieren hacer los episodios o si es una vez a la semana o si es cada otra semana o si quieren hacer seasons, porque hay muchas veces que la gente hace seasons o hacen como vamos a decir, 2 episodios y después cogen un break y después empiezan otra vez con otra temporada. So como digo, es completamente tu control y hay mucha flexibilidad cuando viene de podcast. So yo con los clientes me siento 1 hora a las semanas por 6 semanas y yo le digo, ok, esta semana vamos a hacer esto y esto y la próxima semana después vamos a hacer los otros hasta que finalmente ellos tienen su podcast y tienen su podcast con un plan de scheduling, un plan para record, un plan de marketing también, porque es bien importante, ¿sabes? Si vas a hacer un programa, tienes que dejarle saber a la gente que tiene el programa para que escuchen. Y paso por paso, yo lo hago que sea bien simple para que no se sientan overwhelmed, porque como dije, behind the scenes del podcast es mucho. Pero there's so much benefits to having a podcast que para mí, it just makes sense to have one, especially for entrepreneurs or for a hobby, right? It could be a creative outlet that way. And yeah, so that's how you can start a podcast. Y si quieren comunicarse conmigo para hacer su propio podcast, hay más información en mi website, harydelacruz.com. Y también yo tengo un online store, on Stand Store, que también pueden utilizar, and I have a lot of resources there for starting a podcast or growing your podcast and things like that.
Y yo sé que dijiste que muchos negocios, o sea, personas, emprendedores que tengan su propio negocio, porque yo sé que a mí me gustan los podcasts también, pero queremos invitar a quien esté viendo el show que pueden contactar a Hady para esta información, pero yo pienso, pensar en cuál es mi don, yo soy buena a qué, right? Y
Ujú.
hablar de ese tema. Por ejemplo, si quieres hablar de ser mamá de solo varones,
Yes.
o ser mamá y solamente tienes hijas, o solo de ser mamá, o ser mamá casada, ser mamá soltera. O sea, hay tantos temas. El otro día estaba viendo un podcast de 3 mujeres que tienen más de 45 años y están hablando de la vida y las cosas que han pasado y las cosas que de verdad en la vida importan para ellas,
Ujú.
¿no? Entonces puede ser algo muy divertido si es trabajo. Por ejemplo, ahorita nosotras. Esto se ve bien bonito y el logo y todo, y Madeline se puso sus joyas y todo, pero si no fuera por Mark, estuviéramos quién sabe dónde, ¿no? Entonces, todas esas cosas son, yo pienso, uno se tiene que enfocar en mi don, en lo que a mí me gusta hacer, en lo que yo sé que soy buena, y después consigo una persona experta como Hady que me ayude con la parte administrativa o la parte de marketing o lo que sea.
Yeah,
Pero si uno se enfoca en realidad en lo que uno le gusta y que tú eres buena a hacer eso, el resto viene. Es mi opinión.
exactamente. Ujú.
¿Qué tú piensas, Mary?
Sí, claro, estoy muy, muy de acuerdo. Lo que pasa es que muchas veces nosotros nos enfocamos solamente en el sueño. Esto es lo que quiero hacer, esto es lo que quiero hacer, pero otra vez no nos educamos en todo, en total, en su totalidad. Eso es como todas las personas que quieren comenzar un negocio. O sí, yo quiero ser tutoría porque yo soy buena ayudando a los estudiantes, pero el negocio no es solamente dar la tutoría, el negocio es un negocio completo, o cómo me educo en toda la área del negocio para yo asegurarme que estoy proveyendo mejor servicio a mis clientes. Eso es lo mismo. Si te gusta algo, si te inspira algo, sí, pero tienes que educarte. Completely well-rounded, educate yourself so that you are able to excel at what you try to do. Porque muchas veces lo que nos pasa es que tenemos, ay, sí, esto es lo que quiero hacer, esto es lo que quiero hacer, y te tiras y después te das cuenta, pero no pensé en eso, pero no pensé en lo otro. Y creo que Hady mencionó también anteriormente el tener la plataforma, el tener la oportunidad de poder salir y representarnos y que otras personas se vean representadas en nosotros también. Por eso yo siempre digo, le doy gracias a esta plataforma y a Mark y que Pasa Mujer por darnos la oportunidad de poder hablar y traer información a las mujeres latinas, a las personas latinas y quizás servir de inspiración para los que quieran hacer lo que nosotros estamos haciendo.
Yeah. I think it's very nice what you do, Hady. So of course, Hady has her own podcast, but then she also coaches other people to have their own podcast. So you guys could definitely reach out to her. We're going to put her information on the comments or somewhere on the banner here. But what we were saying in Spanish is, well, what I was saying in Spanish is everybody has a gift. And so if you concentrate on perfecting your gift, because we also want to give things of quality, right? We want to make sure that the information that we're giving out is correct. So you really want to be in your realm to really be an expert at it, right? So there's a book that I read, really short read, called Rainmaker, and it talks about the fact that you need to fall in love with your client, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you fall in love with your client, you're going to do it naturally. It's just like dating, right? You fall in love with this person and you want to buy her, flowers, whatever those things are, how you court someone. And so it's the same thing with your clients. If you fall in love with them, you're gonna give quality. That person is gonna fall in love with you as well. And so I've always tried to have that mentality because I think it's important. And then we find experts like Hady to help us with her area of expertise. So I no longer do my taxes, right? I no longer design my business card, or I don't no longer do my trifold or QuickBooks or any of those things, because you gradually grow, and as you gradually grow, you can give those duties to somebody else to do. Like you said, you have a virtual assistant, and it's not only, and we talk, Maddie and I talk about this all the time. So now you're employing somebody else, like you're helping, right? So it's like the money is like rotating amongst us. So it's not I'm not just the one making money. Like I'm helping other people, contribute to the $3.7 trillion.
Yes. And I love what Maddie said about educating and learning, because the reason why I actually started coaching is because another statistic that I had learned was that over 90% of podcasters don't make it past the 10th episode. And it's because they go into it uneducated, not intentionally. It's just like, oh, the podcasting sounds fun. But then they get into it and they're like, oh, wait, this is a lot. So I actually started helping people who are curious about podcasting with my free masterclass, where I literally tell you everything you need to know about the behind the scenes work that it takes to start a podcast. So then you can make that educated decision. It's like, okay, I think I can handle that. Right. And then once they hire me as their coach, then we really go through their schedule. And it's like, okay, this is what the capacity you have to produce this podcast. It sometimes may not be weekly, and that's okay. You don't need a weekly show to be successful. So one thing that I love to share with people is like, my show has won 2 awards, right? But when I started my podcast, it was not a weekly podcast, and it still won the awards, right? And so it was a bi-weekly podcast because that's just what my capacity could handle at that time. Until again, I was able to get the VA, and then like now I can produce more episodes. But I love getting with clients and seeing what works for them. So it could be seasons, it could be weekly, it could be bi-weekly. Because a lot of people think podcasting is like, oh, it has to be weekly. It really doesn't. There's a lot of flexibility when it comes to podcasting, but it's such a powerful tool to reach, a lot of people, because you can reach people literally worldwide. And also, again, especially if you have a business and you're helping Latinos, we are listening to podcasts. So you can definitely reach your target audience through podcasting.
Can you tell us a little bit about your coaching business podcast?
Yeah, so I just started it last month. It's called Digital Marketing 101 for Latinas, and it's to help with all things digital marketing. So I talk about social media and I talk about podcasting and things like that. Because it really, like, once you're in this internet space and internet world, like everything just kind of like really goes together. And so I really break down the behind the scenes of everything that it takes for digital marketing. And so on my website, also HadyDeLaCruz.com, I share weekly podcasting tips. So whether it is you're looking to use a podcast for marketing or you're looking to start your own, like I share podcasting tips for both sides of things. So like, for example, last week I shared why it's important to have a website for your podcast, right? So that way you have that internet hub where people can listen to your episodes, they can read your transcripts. If you have a blog for your podcast, they can read the blog posts. Because again, we don't own social media, but we, our blog and our website and our podcast, we do own that. So we can control that and things like that. So but Digital Marketing 101 podcast is all things digital marketing. And you can definitely check out more information about podcasting at my website.
Sorry, I was muted. So I think that's amazing that you do that, because it's discouraging sometimes. You start and then you're like, oh my gosh. So, you kind of get excited and you do the first one, and then you're like, okay, who do I invite now? Like, what do I talk about now? And it could be challenging. So I used to do a podcast and, you learn as you go. Right. And so what I started to do, which I thought was a great idea, is I would have a guest and my shows were 30 minutes. Yeah. So I would invite the person to come for an hour and I would just record 2 of them. But I would, I would just make them live at different times, but we would record a full hour, but just 2 different topics. And so I was able to gain 2 shows out of 1 visit from the person.
Nice.
So you kind of start to get savvy. I was working with a gentleman too, and he was doing a lot of 15-minute podcasts.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people think also that you have to like do 45 minutes to an hour. No, like you can do as long as you are providing the value to your audience. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, quick things. It's just providing value. Just like you, like I usually aim for 30 minutes for my guest. And sometimes we'll go 45, sometimes we'll go an hour. But because I definitely don't want to like cut them off, especially if we're like, in a good
Yeah.
conversation, but minimum 30 minutes. But for my solo podcast, like some of my episodes are like 15 minutes, some of them are 20. Actually, the other day I just recorded my longest one. It was 45 minutes. And when I finished, I was like, I talked for 45 minutes. Like, what in the world? But I was having so much fun just like talking about
And it was
social
just
media.
you. And it
Yeah, it
was
was
just
just
you.
me. It was
Yeah.
just me. I was having so much fun talking about social media and like the early days of Twitter and like just reminiscing. And then I was like, man, I really talked for 45 minutes. But again, it was providing value to, like, it wasn't just like me rambling. Like I was providing value to my audience. But yeah, you can definitely do like 10-minute episodes. There's this business owner that I follow, and she likes to do 2 cents that no one asked her for, like series on Instagram. And I'm like, girl, this could be a podcast. 2 cents that no one asked you for, and then you talk about the topic, make it 5 minutes, and it's just out there, and you can get more clients like that. So much flexibility when it comes to podcasting.
Yeah, because we all have attention deficit. So,
Yeah.
the longer the show is, you're gonna lose people. So I like those 15-minute shows, to be
Yeah,
honest with
quick
you.
and to the point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So like even like let's say Maddie, right? So Maddie is an author. Can you tell us
Oh,
a little bit about your book, Maddie? And there's another one coming soon at some point. I don't know when, but it's coming.
Maddie, I need you on my podcast too, both of
So
you ladies.
pressure,
Yeah.
but here I am. So my book is called A Vision of She. So I am a spoken word artist. I write poetry. I do poems. And like everybody, I just started, sometimes like we're saying, I just started with a dream, and I just started doing poems and telling my story. And sometimes we think that whatever we're going through and the topics that we talk about only affect us. And what I've discovered is when I go out there and I do my poems, one, it puts you in contact with people that you never thought that you would be having conversations with. Two, people that come to you that when you least expect it, and they're like, you talked about me. And I'm like, no, 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 that's my story. And you realize that you have more in common with people, that you're more alike than different. I always like to say that. So because we always try to focus on what makes me different, what made me different. But when you start telling your story, and again, the American dream, when we start dreaming, we start realizing that our dreams are very, very similar. So again, different capacities, but very, very similar at the end of the day. So let me ask you, what Viviana said, find what you're good at. What's your advice if somebody tells you, I want to start a podcast, but I don't know what to write about?
That is a really good question, because I have a lot of clients that do that. They're like, "Oh, I've been thinking about a podcast, but I don't know what to talk about." So what I have them do a brain dump exercise. It's just like piensa en todo lo que tú creas que tú puedes hablar o que te gusta hablar. Just write it all down. Write it all down. Take like 15 minutes. Any idea that comes up to mind that you think that you could talk about. Y mira a ver si hay algo en común en todos los tópicos. And then you can go ahead and go that way. And then branch out. Because again, a lot of people like to focus like, oh, I need to talk about this one thing, but it's like, why? Like, there's so much nuance and so much things to us. Like, there's no need to talk about just one thing, but you can definitely see like what is it that you have in common with the different topics that you have in mind. So that's definitely an exercise that I help my clients through when they're like, oh, I don't know what to talk about. There's so much to talk about, and it's like, okay, let's break it down. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, because even with us, que pasa mujer, but we've had men on the show,
Hey,
and we
okay.
were like, at first, we were like, no, it's que pasa mujer. But yeah, we've had men come on the show, a couple of them, like three, I think it's been like three or four, but they talk about stuff that's related to females and some stuff that is not related to females, just related to everybody. So yeah, we can't put ourselves in a box,
No, not at
and
all.
even things. I noticed that I help people with like business development, right? And so even coming up with the name is like, do that last sometimes,
Yeah.
if it's like if you start doing something and it's taking you more than 5 minutes, like move on to the next activity and we'll just go back to it at another
Yeah.
time. Because you have to like move. It has to be action driven, right?
Yes, that's where
And
change happens.
yes, because even sometimes like with your show, right? The American Dream in the eyes of in the eyes of immigrants. I'm sure I don't know. Sometimes the name just kind of comes, and that's what we go with. But sometimes it evolves.
Yeah.
I know even with logos, like my logo has evolved through time, right? Whether it's the way that it looks or the colors, or and it's okay. And I
And
think
that's okay.
yeah,
Yes.
and I think that's the part that we get stuck on, like.
Mhm.
Oh my God. And then I say, just think about Coca-Cola has changed their logo, a couple of times. So like it's okay. And you just
Yeah, like the big names do it. Like, why can't we? And it's funny that you mentioned like some people that like don't even focus on the name first, like just get, and that's like I was thinking about the process that I go through my clients, and we don't talk about the name first. We literally will go first, like, what do you want to talk about? Who are you going to be talking to, and why? That why is so important because, like I mentioned earlier, like if you're trying to like, get famous or like make money, like yes, that can happen, but that's not a deep enough why to keep you going, especially when challenges come up, like we had
Mhm.
talked a lot about earlier. Like if I was just doing it for money, then I would have quit like my
You
first
would have done
month
something
probably.
else.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would have done something else, but it's just like going back, like getting that root why. And then like you said, like the taking action is really what get the ball rolling, take action, and then the name will come later. Or and then you can, like you said, you can change it. Maybe you
Mhm.
thought about this and then later on it evolves into something else because we're always evolving. We're always, growing. The more we learn, and the more experiences we have in life, we're always changing. And yeah, so we definitely want to grow and evolve with our projects, whatever it is that we are working on.
And this
Mhm.
is exactly how you write a poem.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like Maddie, when you do poems, do you always come up with the title like right away, or no, just later?
It depends, because the thing is that sometimes you start writing and like a lot of the times you kind of have a topic but you don't know where you want to go with a poem, and sometimes you start writing about something and it takes you and you end up writing about something completely different. So a lot of the sometimes the poem comes first, sometimes it doesn't. Like you asked me about my book, like even the title of my book, it just started because I started writing a bunch of poems about my daughter, and every time that I wrote about the poems, it was just she. I kept calling her she, and she this and she that, and it was never her name or my daughter. No, it was never that. It was, she inspires me this way, or she does this, and then it just became a vision of she because I kept talking about she. But as you open the book, then you realize, again, and it started being about her, and then it ended up being, about me, about her, about my children, being a mother, and then other women, other poems that I wrote about other people that inspired me. So she can be any of those she's. So it became a vision of she, but it was just a bunch of, I call them she poems. I have a bunch of she poems. So yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Maddie, you don't have any poems about numbers since you're a banker, since you work in the financial world?
They have asked me this, and it's like I don't, and the thing I think is I'm traumatized because I heard somebody do a really good poem, and it was an amazing poem about the economy and finances and money and capitalism, and I was like, oh, I was like, no, until I can come up with a poem like that, I'm not writing one. So, and this was probably, no joke, this was probably like 10 years ago. And I was like, I can't, so I don't know. So maybe one day I'll come up with
Yeah, you should do a poem about the $3.7 trillion.
Hey. Yep.
You know? And then you could turn it into a podcast.
Hey. There you go.
Hey.
Or
And
a
I'm telling you, that's what it is, right? So like Maddie could literally have a podcast about her poetry.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
And about
Do a podcast
finances.
about writing,
Cooking,
writing
about interior design, about accessories.
There
But
you go.
that's one thing that I was gonna say before, that when you were talking about the brainstorming exercise, like what do you like? What do you like to talk about and things like that. But I think, and even with us here at Que Pasa Mujer, I have learned everything is connected. Like we find a way to, connect everything. We talk about Latina women, but like you say, Heidi, how many Latina women podcasters are out there? Not enough, but you're here. You know what I'm saying? So, we're here talking about it. Yes, I'm a banker. That's what pays the bills. I do poetry because I love it. I love my jewelry. So if you know me, I'm an avid collector of, necklaces and stuff like that.
And
Um,
shoes.
Shoes, not so much. Not like necklaces, but, because, yeah, Heidi, I have like at least 150 to 200 necklaces in my closet.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
That's
bad.
amazing.
It's bad. But anyway, um, it's good, but it's bad. But everything is connected, and
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of it. Like
Yeah.
again, being out here and putting ourselves out there. We are multifaceted, individuals, and there's so many sides of us. And again, I keep saying it. You never know who's watching you that can be
Yeah.
inspired by your story and a side of you that they might not knew you had, or that you could have, that
Yeah.
you could dress like a fancy person in the morning, and then at night you come and I'm all covered in paint because I'm crafting. That's how my mind works.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, thank you, Heidi. I think you're amazing.
Thank
I
you.
could definitely see the energy and why people open up to you, because
Oh,
you're very welcoming.
thank
Just
you.
your energy is very refreshing.
Thank
It's almost
you.
like when you see someone and they're glowing. Uh, that's what you are to me anyway. And by the way, we don't know Haiti. We're not friends. We just like talk today,
Yeah.
Um, so it's just
Thank
the
you.
you fall right in with our energy. So it's amazing.
I love that. I think
Yeah,
that's the best compliment, like, because energy doesn't lie. Like, when like something's off, right? And it's like, oh, okay, something's off. But thank you. When people talk, like, compliment my energy, I'm just like, that's
yeah,
all God. Like, because
yeah. And like this
it
is
doesn't lie.
yeah, and like this is I'm about to be real transparent. Usually, when we have a guest on the show, I talk to them beforehand, and we did not talk. I did not screen you. I didn't. Um, and I'm realizing it like right before the show. I'm like, oh my god, like I didn't follow my process.
Oh.
Um, but it turned out well. Like it's good.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes.
Yeah,
But no, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for the platform. I never take it lightly when people invite me on their show to talk about my podcast, because I mean, I know you guys being Latinas, you guys can definitely relate. But there's not a lot of people that really care. I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot of people that don't really care about that side of people's stories. So like when I do get invited on to share, like I take it like I'm very, very honored and to share about my story and other immigrant stories and why I started the podcast, because it's important to listen to people's stories. Something that Maddie said earlier. Something that I realized with doing the show and talking to people from literally all over the world is that we are more connected, or we are more the same than what we are different. It's crazy. I remember interviewing this child of immigrants. Her parents came from India, and she was talking about her upbringing. And I was like, girl, did we live the same life? Like, how is this possible? Like, a completely different part of the world. We're from the Caribbean, and we literally grew up the same. And I was just like, how, so it was just like, we are more alike than what we are different. And again, like I had mentioned earlier, like you can learn so much from people, from just talking to people and just sharing their stories.
Oh yeah, definitely, most definitely. So once you come on the show, you're like forever connected with us.
Oh,
So you can reach out to us anytime, even if you have a guest on your podcast and you think that they should be on our show.
yeah.
Hey,
Well, I want both of you on my show, though. Like,
we can do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
please,
we
please. I
can
would
do that.
love that.
That's not a
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, we could do that. So as you know, or may not know, we always finish our show with one of Maddie's uh, tingling poems. So we don't know what she has in store for us today.
Gosh, she always does that, and she puts this
because it's
pressure on
true.
me, you
It's
know.
true. I always get goosebumps. 98,
Mm.
99.9 times I always get goosebumps. 99.9.
Well, thank you, Viviana. You don't count because you're my friend, so you're supposed to say that. But
Even
anyway,
before we were friends, I still felt that.
thank you so much. So before I go into poem, just thank you, Heidi, for being here, for again your amazing energy and what you're bringing, which is something new and different that we had not spoken about, and that again maybe somebody that's watching us has never thought about and be like, oh, you know what, I can do that. So hopefully they can get some inspiration from that. Okay, and just a little bit of background. I don't know if you saw me. Anytime you were talking and you said something that I liked or that resonated with me, I do this. This is a poetry thing, So when you hear something that you like, we kind of snap. So, we go on mute. And since we're on mute when somebody else is talking, we like constantly doing this. That means like, yes, I like it. So anyway, that's what that was. I'm not crazy most of the time, but anyway. Um, I'm gonna share this poem. I've shared this poem before, but I think it's just it goes along with the topic. And I wrote this poem. I remember when I wrote this poem. This was is dated 2014. So when I heard Julia Alvarez's story. Julia Alvarez, it's a Dominican American poet, and she became very well known after she wrote her books after the age of 40. And for me, like I look at myself and I'm like, I want to write a book, but, I'm too old. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I often tell myself, maybe I shouldn't be doing spoken word because I'm old, but, I love it. So this came from listening to Julia Alvarez's story, and this is my version or my story. It's called In Between. So I was born in the land of possibility, where I was taught to believe that anything is attainable and dreaming doesn't cost a thing until innocence is outgrown and you come face to face with deceit to realize the high price we actually paid to dream. In search of a better life, my parents became aliens in this new world, hoping to swim with the current, but instead found themselves swimming against its force. You would think that would be enough to instill in them fear. Instead, they found their own way to cope and deal with stress, not forgetting about their past, but making the best out of what they had, working twice as hard to prove that they could hang, trying to communicate in a language they could barely understand, but no complaints. Resilience has always been a part of their blood. They could always find another way to make it to the top. Trying to bounce up and not down, my generation start to question its ground. You see, I was born here, but I was raised there. I was too American for there and too Dominican for here. I didn't belong anywhere. In the confusion, you are forced to put on hold all that you have known because you have to be like everyone else and try to fit a mold. The internal struggle finds its way up. Am I really an American? Or am I from where my parents came from? The blue color in my passport made my parents feel at ease and proud, but in the streets it has no value when you speak English with an accent and your skin is brown. I found myself in the middle, held captive by this in-between, embracing opportunity but trying to hide the ethnic side of me, straightening my mommy curly hair and whitening my daddy tan skin, changing the dark coffee color in my eyes to American decaf with milk in. I just wanted to fit in, not have to explain to everybody why I looked and sounded different, hating in between. But I learned that doubt only create question, that trying to hide who you really are, you only add extra pressure instead of enjoying the pleasures, making the discovery of being different a treasure, reassurance that comes from within, knowing that I don't have to choose from the in-between because I am all the way in, a bilingual tongue that's smart enough to create tactics, a mulata skin that's becoming synonymous with Maddie, the gift of words adding sabor to my spit. That makes me me, knowing that in between doesn't have to be a detriment because it is a gift. I, birthed from mommy's hopes and papi's dreams, have become the bridge between my parents' generation and that of my kids, and it is up to me to embody the pride that one should always feel. Like not being ashamed to pronounce the R in between the letters of my last name, Garcia. Injects convictions, the words every time I'm asked, and I get to say, yes, sir, I am a proud American of Dominican descent.
I haven't heard this one before, Maddie.
That was
And
powerful.
I got chills for real.
That was powerful. Wow.
Yeah. She does it every time.
Man, I felt that to my core. I was like, yes, yup. Yeah.
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 Yeah, ladies.
So I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope that you on purpose celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, which starts tomorrow, and let other people know that that's what we're celebrating. Even though it's only 30 days, but we celebrate all the time. But tomorrow is officially the first day of Hispanic Heritage Month. So our jobs is to educate ourselves and educate others about our heritage and the things that we're doing here in the United States and outside. So I hope you guys have an amazing week. Heidi, it was amazing talking to you. And Maddie, it was nice seeing you again. And I hope you guys have, again, a great week. And we will be here again next Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And thank you to our audience and our producer, Mark. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We are Digital Undivided. For over a decade, we've increased visibility and access for Latina and Black women founders. Women shaping the fields of healthcare, technology, wellness, finance, education, and beyond. We began with groundbreaking research through our Project Diane report, which shed light on the triumphs and disparities Latina and Black women founders face. We now offer several founder-centric programs, events through strategic partnerships, and a vibrant founder community. Digital Undivided not only champions an equitable entrepreneurial landscape, we provide women of color at various stages of running a business with the space to improvise and innovate. From big to the new C-suite, we are where Latinas and Black women convene. Women who innovate, women who build, women who break through. We are Digital Undivided, empowering women of color to transform entrepreneurship.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be. A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.